Welcome to the Successful Life Podcast. I am your host, Corey Barrier, and I am here with my man, TJ Hart. I always screw everybody's last
Hartnett.
Hartnett. Look, you look at any
looks.
podcast, bro, I mess everybody's last name up, so my apologies on that.
You're good.
TJ, what's up, my man? How are you?
I'm doing great. Just had a great event last week. Ready to go to another great event this week. And Philadelphia sports were pretty kick butt this weekend. So I'm feeling pretty good.
I bet, dude. You got to be tired. So you went to Tommy's event last weekend, right?
Vertical track last weekend.
And then this weekend is
Service Rocket for the Service Rocket group, or
Victor
Service Hero, or Profit Rocket, or whatever name it might be this week. But I'll be at that group.
That's gonna be sweet. Should be a pretty good turnout. They've got a lot of people, a lot of big name people coming.
There are, and from my understanding, it's going to be plus or minus about 1,000 people in attendance from all different spaces, and there are people that chose to invest in themselves. So that kind of gets me excited. And anytime you got somebody spending money to better themselves, they come with a little bit of a different intentionality. So that's a cool thing.
I agree with you. I totally agree. And one thing that I think, and I don't know if you've experienced this or not, but do you sometimes feel like it's too much information? Like it's an overload?
I do. And it's one of the things that I talk about when I'm on stage was you're going to come and you're going to get absolutely fed through a fire hose. Try and make sure you're taking away at least somewhere between 1 and 3 things that you're actually going to deploy. And so when they come and you're like, hey, that'll change our business, that'll change how we do what we do, whatever, that's going to impact us, and do it quickly, low-hanging fruit, so to speak. Write it down, put an action plan together for it, which I'll walk them through how to do, and then file it away so that you can pay attention to everybody else. But trying to, I'm going to do that, then you're going to get back and you ain't going to do a damn thing. So really try hard to guide people. Hey, 1 to 3 things that you're going to do that's going to make your business run better than it did before you came, and you're good.
Shoot, if you just do one thing better, that's a win, right? So much good information comes out of these events. And if you try, like you said, if you try to capitalize on all of them, it's just, you're going to wind up going in a circle and not being very successful. TJ, right now I should have just let you introduce yourself. My apologies. Why don't you introduce yourselves? Since we're halfway through the show.
There we go. No, so TJ Hartnett, I'm president and CEO of a company called the Flywheel Coaching Group. We're a business coaching and training organization for the trades, but we're more of a boutique. Like, I'm not looking to be the Next Stars or the SGIs or those really larger groups, because I'm just too relationship driven and too relationship focused to be where we're headed right now. Right. I want to be able to come alongside businesses and help them where they're at with what they need. We do have a beginning program that we go through that we refer to as our foundational 5, and everybody goes through it no matter what. But the only reason being is early in my career as a coach, I didn't do that and inadvertently hurt some folks, where had I done it, better things would have happened versus the outcome that they had. Helped them sell really out of the gate, but they weren't priced right. So you can imagine how that worked out. And so just vowed to myself that I was never going to not have the commitment to looking over these 5 core things before we get rolling, regardless of whether you're a $1 million business or a $50 million business. We're looking at these, and it's made things go a whole lot better. So we're just going to keep on doing that.
What 5 things do you look at?
So we look at your billable hour or your pricing, because now we've got margin pricing that's been introduced to the game on the service side. We're going to look at your financial statements. So your profit and loss statement, your income statement, your balance sheet. But we're looking at them not only for completeness, but for structure. Because what I find with most financial statements is that they're set up to make life easy for your accountant, not for you to actually make data-driven decisions about your business. And so we're gonna go ahead and make sure that it's set up in a way that you can look at it, and within 5 minutes, you know where you're bleeding from, and you know what's happening and why it's happening. We're gonna go through, we're gonna get core values and mission statement taken care of, because from a cultural standpoint, a lot of people, I'll be talking on this week, a lot of people, they want to have a great, healthy culture, but they've done nothing to align the people in order to create that great, healthy culture. And so core values and mission statement are the very foundation of that. And then lastly is an organizational chart. But I always recommend that we look out 3 to 5 years and we build the organizational chart for the company that you want to be versus the company that you are today. And it empowers the rest of the team to see not only what are they doing and what are they responsible for and who's in charge of their care, but it also sees what opportunities lie ahead and how would I go about positioning myself to be somebody that might be able to fill one of those opportunities. So it just brings a lot of clarity and allows us to make way better decisions later on in the coaching than if I didn't pay attention to those things out of the gate.
Dude, I'm so glad you said that, because it makes complete sense. Because here's the thing: if one of those areas is off, the whole wheel doesn't spin because there's a spoke missing. And those, oh my, now I'm putting it together. So but you're 1,000% correct. And I think one of the things that you hit on specifically, and I don't personally map out organizational charts for people but I understand the value and I understand what it is. That's just not my specialty, right?
Yep.
But it is super important, and we've all heard this, to have the right people in the right seats on the bus, because if you don't, the bus is not going to run. Not properly.
No, unfortunately, like the ADHD kids like us, you can't put us in the back of the bus. We got to sit up by the bus driver so we behave. It's not that we're any different of a child or different of an individual, but when you put us by, the bus driver's got their intent right on us and we're doing what we need to do. And so we don't get in trouble. Whereas the more trustworthy kids are the ones that you're going to put in the back of the bus. And I don't mean trustworthy from like ethics, but trustworthy from like, not every little thing distracts them. It's some of those challenges, but no, to your point, what we uncover is more often than not, the reason that I get into it is nobody really knows what sandbox they own and what sandbox they need to ask permission to climb into. And that's where I find like 80% of the things that happen in an organization that aren't fun stem from is
overlap. I think that's part of it.
It is. It's overlap, and then it's the feelings and the beliefs and things that are tied to the overlap being able to occur and occurring, because in one person's mind it shouldn't, and then in the other person's mind they just think they're trying to help. And there's no clear boundaries. And I often talk about, I'll make parallels with kids all the time because quite honestly, all of us are still kids. We're just older and we can vote and smoke and drink. But at the end of the day, when it comes to the kid thing, like I tell people, give me one child that you've ever met that didn't have any rules, that didn't have responsibilities, that didn't have chores, that was an amazingly well-behaved child. You can't. Nope. At the same time, share with me a child that was just an absolute nightmare, but the parents had rules and again, you can't, right? So it's the same thing in an organization. Like these things have to exist for them to have the freedom of which they seek.
Yes. Not
to rein them in. It's, hey, now this whole pasture out here, this whole area, go have fun and do your thing. We can do that and it's safe because the fence that's around it, we know keeps the bad stuff out, keeps them in. And that's really what those 5 things do for an organization. Is it gives us a better chance keeping the bad things out and the good stuff in.
And really a lot of that is structure, which I don't like. I like structure. I don't like being structured. Does that make sense? Like I don't 100%. Like, yeah, of course it makes sense.
Give me the confines with which I can work, but don't tell me how to do it.
Yes, correct. A lot of our clients are that way. A lot of them.
Large majority.
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as you know that, then you can work with them accordingly. But I lost what I was saying.
You're good. It was confines and things of being liking structure, but not wanting someone to try and make you structured.
Right. And think about this. When we're trying to tell our clients to do something, do you think that's the wrong approach?
Corey, in fairness, I'm a coach, not a consultant, so I don't tell anybody to do anything.
Yeah, me either.
I'm going to ask better questions to get them to discover a better answer for themselves. and I'm going to come alongside them and help them to hone a skill set that they may not have, or that maybe isn't as good as it needs to be. But I'm not going to necessarily tell them to do. The only thing that you have to do if you're my client is you have to not be a jerk. If I come and meet with you and you're like, hey, teach me how to take more of the customer's money, you're not your coach. We're done. Conversation over. Aside from that, and same thing towards your internal people, of course. But aside from that, if you're like, hey, I really like to do this way, we're going to have a conversation about it. We're going to uncover that doing it that way isn't hurting anybody, that it's delivering a predictable result that's desired. We're going to go. And if it is, guess what I'm going to tell you? Good. Keep doing that. Next.
Yeah.
Like it's not a one size fits all. And I think that's one of the other big differentiators in the coaching space is a lot of these groups, if you want to deviate from the structure or from the book, all of a sudden now you're doing it wrong. The last time I checked, Corey, the thing that makes us all special is our uniqueness.
That's right.
And so I don't want to create 50 TJs running around. I want to create 50 individuals running around that have been influenced by me in certain areas. And the only reason they're influenced by me in those certain areas is because I was fortunate enough to be influenced by a lot of people in the course of my time in my career. And I got to post a picture this week with Keith Mercurio, and what that guy has meant to my career, along with a few other folks, is unquestionable, right? Did we ever go and eat dinner together and all those types? No. But he's the coach that cared enough about me to force me through some things that I didn't want to deal with, right? And to force me through looking at things through a different lens than the way I was looking at them. And had he not done that, I wouldn't be where I'm at today. Right. And so there's a handful of those people in my career, as I'm sure there is for you. And so every chance I get to show them my gratitude, man, I make sure I take it.
100%. 100%. Those folks, they're not a dime a dozen.
No,
they're not. And when you get somebody, I've got one of my best friends. He just is the salt of the earth, best human being that's ever been on this planet, and will give his shirt off. A lot of people are that way, but he's just different, right? He's just he just tends to relationships on a level that's just really special. And it sounds like Keith is very similar to that with you.
1,000,000%. And like I said, it's one of those things where it wasn't hours upon hours of interaction. It was the right interaction at the right time, with the right amount of follow-up afterwards. And over the course of, I guess now it's probably been the last 15 years, we've just stayed connected. It might be 5 Facebook messages a year. It might be 2 phone calls. It might be running each other at an airport. That's happened twice. It doesn't have to be much. But like I said, when you take not just Keith, but it's an opportunity for me to give some thanks here real quick, right? Is you take a Mark Atherstone, you take a Weldon Long, you take a Kenny Chapman, a Keith Mercurio, right? These are all guys that had such an influence in my career and in helping to shape me when I was wet clay to what I am now, that I'm more like a dingy old pot. That I wouldn't be where I'm at if they hadn't been a part of my life. And so I just make sure that I express that gratitude when I'm near them. And I really pray that I'll have 100th of the influence over somebody in the course of my career that those guys had over me. Because if I do, mission accomplished. The rest of it really doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. And I agree with you. There's something about, it's interesting that because Keith treated you like you and I talked before this show, just like we treat the people that we deal with, which is you do add value first. And we hear that a lot of times, and it's really a kind of a buzzword for a lot of people. But what we're talking about with the value portion is you just do stuff out of the goodness of your heart to make somebody's life better. And that's the name of the game.
It's 100% the name of the game. And it's one of those deals where we're all on this planet together. If everybody would just approach it this way, which I know is utopian, I know it's not going to happen, but if they did, it'd be a whole lot better place. And that's where I will give an insane amount of credit to Tommy Mello and Bree Arvalo at the vertical track event. Corey, I've never been to an event in all my years. And so let's put this into perspective. Day one for me in the trades was October 1st, 1994, right? I'm sorry, October 4th, 1994 was my very first day. It was where I went in and I was an apprentice and didn't know anything. Over the course of the last 28 years, I've been to a lot of industry events. The one I was at last week was the very first time I've ever been to an industry event where the only thing that you could see, no matter where you looked, was people caring about each other. The 3 or 4 times I heard like some negativity, maybe potentially starting up, right behind it was somebody coming up and going, hey, just real quick, I know you're frustrated, but is the conversation you're about to have, is that going to get you closer to where you want to go, or is it going to get you further away? And shifted the course of the conversation. Or, hey, I know you're hurting and everything, but are you bringing value right now, or are you tearing down? And this happened across, I don't know how many hundreds or thousands of people for 3 solid days. I've never been at an event where that was the case. And so one of the rarities, this long-winded post that I warned everybody about, I was like, hey, long post rant. I just had to share it with everybody, my perspective on it on social media. Not to kiss up, not to, oh, Tommy this or Tom. The only way that happens is for you to breathe it and live it and follow it and surround yourself with other people that do the same thing, who genuinely care. Because any other way, you'll see it, but it won't permeate everything.
You can't fabricate authenticity.
It was insane. I was excited to go home and see my family, but I did not want to leave.
Dang, I missed that. Man.
Well, here's the good news. They'll do it again. And I have to believe that it won't feel any different because of the level of care and things that they're putting into it. It just was really, like, you talk about value first. That entire event was value first. And it started with them giving the shop tour of A1, taking us through different areas. Then you go into like break room and there's this enormous, I'm talking like going into garage convenience store side drink thing with the same number of choices, Corey, the same number of selections of beverages. And it was just, take what you want. If you want something, go whatever you want to drink, just go have it. Right? There's video games there. Who wants to play video games? By the way, Tommy, I'm going to beat you at Buck Hunter one of these days. But anyway, there was a lot of opportunities there, and it made you feel like you mattered. And I was on a call recently where somebody said something about my view of culture. And so I said this: I don't think people quit jobs. I don't think people quit because of their manager or their boss, right? People are like, oh, they don't quit jobs, they quit managers. I think they quit cultures.
100%.
I think people are somewhere where they don't feel valued, they don't feel uplifted, they don't feel like there's opportunity. And when those things happen, they don't stay. And I look back at my career, and look, if we looked at my resume, I bet you half the people that are listening who are in leadership positions would look at my resume and go, I ain't hiring him. He doesn't stay nowhere long enough. I wasn't discontented or disillusioned. I just didn't put up with BS. So if you said this is how we are and this is what we do, and then you didn't do it, you lost me.
Yeah.
I don't mean to a point where there was no room for making mistakes, but you know what I'm talking about. Like these just egregious things of like, oh, we care about our people, and then being on the phone talking to them in a manner of which that we wouldn't talk to anybody.
Correct.
I would see that was what the case was, and then I was out. Or I would get somewhere and see that the revenue was the primary focus, the primary objective, the only thing they cared about, and I was out.
You have to be. It can't be the main focus. It cannot be.
It's the result. It's always the result.
For sure.
And that was just Simon Sinek has his most recent book, Infinite Game. Maybe one of the greatest gifts any author ever gave me was him writing that book. Because up until I read it, I did think I was disillusioned. I did think I was a discontented person with a discontented heart. I did wonder, hey, how come I haven't stayed at employers? The longest tenure of employment that I had was 8 years. After that, the next longest was like 3. And then most of the rest were 2 or less. And I looked at that and I went, man, what's wrong with me? And then I read that book. And then I read where he talks about that very specific challenge. And I went, holy crap. I had an infinite mind working for finite-minded people. And that's what the issue was. And now I look back and I'm like, man, I feel a whole lot different about myself.
Think about some of those places that you didn't align with, right? If you go back in your Rolodex in your head, you can probably count most of those companies are probably not doing great, because if you felt the misalignment,
Yep,
then other people feel the misalignment. Customers feel the misalignment. Eventually, the thing is going to burn down.
yeah. Or somebody's making money, but their marketing budget is like 15% and the employees are new every year. And there's runway for that. Eventually that's going to stop.
It is. And that goes into, now you're talking about human beings that you're recycling through for money. And that's on a whole different level.
Yeah, I'm 1,000% with you on that. It was eye-opening for me to read through that and pull from it what I did and now be able to go out and deploy it. But like I said, when I was at Vertical Track, I'm just telling you, like I'll probably talk about this for quite a while. It'll probably be years from now, and somebody will ask me a question, and then I'll bring it back up because it was that impactful. And there's not a way for me to really get past. Like my wife even said, she's saying, this really affected you. And I went, it did. It really affected me. I came back. Corey, I walked back into my house a better man than I left. Because I had those days with those people.
That sounds like my ayahuasca journey, but on a different plane there. But yeah.
That's something on my bucket list, by the way. We'll talk about that a different day.
Oh yeah. I've done it twice. It's life-changing.
Yep.
But that love that you felt coming home, that love that you felt in that event, it would be about 10 times that. And it's wild. And yeah, I'll talk to you about it at a later date. That's just, you mesmerized me with that story, because you just don't hear that. I don't hear that. You hear that XYZ person was there, or Peyton Manning was there, or whoever. But I always ask myself, like, what the hell is Peyton Manning going to teach me? I work with people in the trades. What the heck? What is he going to teach me? He's not going to teach me anything. So I really don't care if he's there. Like that kind of stuff. I don't put much value on it. That's all I'm saying.
So I'm with you, but here's the thing. Tommy didn't have any celebrities.
Oh, that's fair. But that's interesting.
There's celebrities to all of us in the home service space, but there were no celebrities at the event. The closest thing to celebrities I would say would be Joe Polish and Ken Goodrich. And if you'd say Joe Polish or Ken Goodrich to the general public, and none of them going to know who the hell those guys are. From that side of things, like, they're celebrities to us and they mean a lot to us because of all they've done in our space, but they're not the Mike Tysons or the Fitzgeralds or whomever that you might get to come and do a keynote speech. And I'm not saying there's not value in those things, but I think it breeds a different attendee.
Agreed.
And a different culture of the event, of what's actually happening. And so, yeah, I thought it was super well done. I can't wait to be a part of it again. And I look forward to seeing how it affects how I move forward. Because I know that there's going to be times where stuff's going to come up, and that's going to be in the back of my mind of, are you honoring what was gifted to you at that event with the way you're handling this situation?
So I'm going to ask you a hard question. It shouldn't be a hard question, but give us one thing that you took away from that event that just, you feel like it was something that, if you're willing to share that.
Yeah. The way we look at other people. You can look at other people and you can judge, which look, I try really hard not to do, but let's be honest, there's times I do it, right? But it's even more profound than that, right? It's you're teaching a class and somebody is disruptive in that class. And right away, mindset goes to, man, this guy's being a jerk. Instead of, I wonder what this guy's got going on that's making him feel or think that this is the best way to handle himself in this situation. And then taking it the next step and going, man, I'm really grateful that he's in my class today because we met at the right time, because I am going to be the person that's going to care enough about him to figure that out. And I will 100% guarantee you, like, I did not think about those things that way prior to that class, prior to that event. I do now. And so what's that going to do? It's just going to make the environment that much more inviting to be a part of, and show people that the old adage of it's easier to catch flies with honey than it is with vinegar, right? Like, I don't know why you want to catch flies, but still, but that's the truth, right? And so you left there realizing, and I guess it's simple, but it's also somewhat profound. You left there realizing it's actually easier to be nice than it is to be a dick. Like, it takes more energy to be a jerk to people than it does to just be nice.
I would almost argue it might take the same amount of energy. So really, you could just take a pick. If it ultimately, you're not necessarily going to lose energy one way or another. But so if that's the case, just make a different decision.
That's just it. But to me, the reason that I say more energy is because when the interaction is over, I don't know about you, but if I was a jerk to somebody, like, the interaction doesn't stop at the interaction, then I think about it after the fact. And sometimes I like rehash it.
Yeah.
I almost never do that when I was nice because it's just how I'm supposed to be. So it ends up taking more of my energy to be difficult or conflicting or a jerk than it does to just simply treat people the way that they deserve to be treated. Or maybe not, maybe deserves not the right word. Maybe worthy is the right word. Like, we're all worthy of being treated as human beings that have feelings and needs and wants and desires.
100%. And I especially want to hone in on that for just a quick second, because I don't do this, but I see this happen a lot, is people will just rip people apart online. And it bothers me. It really bothers me, because you don't know what that person's going through. And you're just jumping in on this bandwagon of garbage, but you know nothing. And this hasn't happened to me, so I'm not the victim here. I'm not saying this never happened to me, but I just don't understand, like, why people pile. And there's a specific situation I'm thinking about that happened not long ago between two people that I know. They both acted like total idiots online. And like, I sat there and watched this interaction, and I'm like, y'all are supposed to be like leaders, and y'all are acting like you're in prison again, which is ridiculous. And so I just think that think about how you want to be talked to. And I know that goes back to treat people how you'd want to be treated, but really it is that simple. You probably wouldn't talk to yourself, not you or me, but some of these people wouldn't talk to yourself the way you talk to other people. Right?
Or worst case, so here's the other one that I uncovered, right? For those of us that have challenges with our internal voice, would you ever let somebody else talk to you the way that you sometimes let yourself talk to yourself?
Nope.
So it goes both ways, Corey. I 100% get where you're coming from, but the answer is no. So just knock it off. It's wasted energy. There's nothing good that's going to come from it, whether it's you talking that way to somebody else, you talking that way to yourself. The only thing it's doing is creating muscle memory for you to continue talking that way. So just stop doing it.
I'll tell you, and this is something I've worked on really hard over the last 3 years, I guess you could say. But more importantly, and really it comes down to, it's a decision, right? And if you just look at it like that, it's just a decision that I can choose to feel like garbage, or I can choose to just not let that thing affect me. And guess what? If it's not within my arm's reach, I don't really have that much control over it anyway. So why am I worried about what's happening next month or what happened last month? I can't do anything about that right now, today.
No, and all it does is take away whatever enjoyment might be available for you today.
And that's where I think the energy depletion comes from, is the stress. To your point about it takes more energy to be upset because you invite negative energy into your life. And I don't know about you, but I pick up on people's energy. I know when people are being genuine and when they're not. And I know if people are telling me the truth or not. Like, it's just people, in ADHD, people get this. Because most of us are empaths, and most of us can see 4 or 5 steps ahead. Most of us can see steps ahead for everybody else, but it's hard to do it for ourselves. Let's see. There's a whole list of things. Yeah.
So I think one of the things in this space, though, right now that bothers me a little bit, and I promise this is going to be a positive thing, not a negative thing, is that we're not putting enough time and attention on just simply being good people to other people in our salesmanship, right? Everybody wants to learn how to be better closer. Everybody wants to learn how to be more persuasive, or for what?
Yeah, stop all that.
I just want to get to know the people better and understand what it is that they're challenged with and what their true, like, desired state, if you will, is. Corey, if you could wave a magic wand and make your house feel a certain way, tell me what that would be, right? What's the humidity level? What's the temperature? When the sun shines through the window, is there stuff floating in it or not? When you drink water, are you chewing it too? Like, asking them questions about, and then going, all right, so Corey, based on those things that we've discussed, which of them are of the top priority that you want to make sure that I try and solve for you today? It doesn't have to be more complicated than this. Yet we probably spend millions of dollars as an industry making it more complicated than this. And all we need to do is just start caring about people, apply the 5th habit, right? The 5th habit of seek first to understand, then to be understood, and get after it, right? Genuinely care. And I think the reason we spend millions of dollars is because I think everybody thinks it can't possibly just be this easy. Right. It can't possibly just be that you just have to care. No, it really is that easy. Right? We talked about previous performance and things of that nature, right? And so I was on a panel and I got to sit next to some ridiculous people on this panel as far as what they've accomplished, right? We're talking Tommy Mello, Brent Buckley, Victor Rancor, Lance Bachman, right? We're all on this panel. Start talking about sales and how back in the late 90s, early 2000s, $1 million in sales was like a really big deal. And then afterwards, when we were done, I got to talking and I said, I don't really bring this up a lot, but did you know that I did 1.2 million in sales in 2000 and I didn't sell equipment? And like a bunch of people just went, what'd you just say? It's like, yeah, I did a little over 1.2 million in sales as a technician in 2000 and I didn't sell equipment. It was all repairs, add-ons, accessories, enhancements, rejuvenation, no equipment. And they're like, how? And I'm like, 1.2 million worth of stuff was wanted by the customer. That's it.
That's it.
So I just think we've got to change the lens that we look through and stop being so concerned about the sales and start being concerned about how many new friends we can make and how many problems we can solve and truly care. And the problem with it is this: you can't fake it.
That's right. You absolutely cannot fake it because there's incongruence. I'll tell you, you can have a poker face, but you can't have a poker body. So your body will always tell the truth. Did you know that?
Look, I could tell people I eat healthy all the time. The minute I stand up and the belly comes out,
all bets are off.
Right now, I can tell you this, I'm getting a whole lot better than I used to be, which is why there's less of me now than there was 10 years ago. But no, exactly to your point, Corey, like the other side of it is this, is if I watch you for longer than today, you'll reveal yourself to me.
Yeah.
Which is why I don't like doing 1 and 2 day on-sites.
Nope.
Right? People are like, well, you're just trying to sell me more. I'm like, no, I need at least 3 days to see who you truly are.
Yeah.
Because everybody can fake it for a day or two.
You really need 5 days, truly.
It's-
I like to have 5 anyway.
I like to have 5 as well, but when 5's not available, 3 and 4 are all I'm doing. If it's a 1 day thing, it's for me to teach a class, not to do an on-site. It's like I'll come and teach a customized class to your team, but it's not for on-site related things. 1 and 2 days is strictly for content.
Let's clarify that for the audience, because that's really important. Because one thing that, clarify why you don't come in for 1 day or even 2 days and then leave, right? And my guess is whenever you come in for how about this? You just tell me, I won't guess. You just tell me how you do it.
No, so people can select that they want to have you on site anywhere from 1 day to 5 days. And then they can do more than 5 days. I'm excited. I'll be not sure if it's February or March, but I'll be in Australia most of the month next year. So that's going to be a good time. But when I go on site, if it's for 1 day or 2 days, it's specifically for me to teach a specific class and give a specific skill set. It's not for me to uncover anything. It's not for me to help solve any issues or put something in place that's not in place, because there's not enough time to do it. 3, 4, and 5 days is where we start getting into those other things. And quite frankly, sometimes they're not enough. And here's what I will tell you. Every on-site I've ever done, we went with an agenda. And if it was a full week, by the 3rd day, the agenda no longer looked the same as it did when I got there. Because the truth comes out. What the company really needs, what the people really need is different than what we might have thought they needed virtually through Zoom meetings.
Right.
And so it's impossible to give lasting change in a day or two, because people won't reveal who they truly are. The other side of it is if you don't start by uncovering beliefs, you're wasting your time on everything else you do. Because if the beliefs aren't aligned with it, you could teach people all you want. Nothing's going to change. You've got to understand, what are their beliefs? Why are they there? Where did they come from? And how committed are they to them? And then once you understand all of that, then we have an opportunity to make improvements or adjustments even. But without that, you're just really listening to yourself talk. And that's why we have this happen. Oh, the guy was on site, and after he left, we did great for a week or two, but then it went right back to where it used to be.
And then we had to call him back and pay him another X, Y, and Z number of dollars.
That's why that happens.
Yeah, of course it is. That seems like the model sometimes.
Yeah. My view as a coach, and I'm pretty sure you're the same way, you should eventually outgrow me.
Yeah.
My skill sets are what they are. Now, am I constantly trying to improve them? Yes. But they are what they are. Like, I'm really good at the things I'm really good at. But I stay in my lane. If you want to know what to do to have the absolute best marketing plan you possibly can, I'm not your guy.
Nope.
If you want me to look at your marketing plan and tell you if I'd make adjustments, I'm okay with that. But I'm not the guy to refine your marketing program. I'm probably not the guy to come in and tell you what you should be doing with your office staff as far as dress code and things like that on its own. But yet we hire people for this shit all the time. I don't know how you do it without looking at what everything else that's going on. And that's why I'm not any good at those things. So I'll adjust and come in. If you want your team to follow a process, if you want beliefs aligned, you want culture healthier, I'm 100% your guy. But it isn't happening overnight. I'm not going to promise it's going to happen overnight. And there's a lot of hard work that has to get done. And I do think, and I know we're like jumping around, but welcome to ADHD, is I think that's one of the challenges of social media for us today, because everyone's looking at some of these different operators that are out there that grew from 0 to 50 million or 0 to 100 million or whatever in 4 years, 5 years, 7 years. So what? You don't know the story behind that. You don't know what's behind the curtain of Wizard of Oz. We don't know how leveraged they were so that when the payoff happened, how much they actually walked away with. And here's the other thing. It doesn't matter because it's them, not you. It's their team, not your team. It's their people, not your people. So stop looking at everybody else and start looking internally and go, hey, what do I really want for myself, my team, my clients, and my company? And then devise a plan and go get it. But stop looking at everybody else. This is where we got to be like those horses in the Kentucky Derby where they wear them things. And the whole reason they wear those things is because if they could see the guy over here, instead of running the race, they'd fight with him.
Yeah.
That's where we've got to get.
I'll be honest, dude. I do that to a degree and similarly, like when I'm working, I'll put on binaural focus music because it helps me dial in like the blinders. And it's important to know about these things because it can really help. Have you ever used binaural beats before? You know what I'm talking about?
Hold on. Hold on. Let me find it. You mean this right here? Oh.
And is that the guy on, do you also watch it on YouTube?
I don't watch it on YouTube, but this is just literally a mix on iTunes of just continual, that background music that helps me to just pay attention to what I'm doing. And so if I really need time of focus, the AirPods go in and I'm focused.
No interruptions.
No interruptions.
Cannot happen. Because I didn't really anticipate talking about ADHD that much, but dude, like if you really think about how bad it throws you off, just the slightest thing, and you're married, but your wife could come into your office and say, hey, something completely unrelated or something completely important. And I may not get back on track for an hour. Right. And that whole hour is wasted because I'm figuring out what I'm doing. So the way I've helped myself with that is I write on a note the thing I'm doing. And I put that note in front of me. So that way, if I forget again, I can just look at the note and see what I was doing.
So full transparency, right? While we're on this call, my son comes down and he's got something to put in the storage freezer that's down here. And so he brings it down, he puts it in the storage freezer, goes back upstairs. And the whole time since he did that, my thought process is he knows I'm on a podcast. He knows I'm down here. Why in God's name did he just have to bring that down here and put that in the freezer right now? Yeah. And so to your point, and then I hear wind outside and I keep the shade pulled on the door on purpose. Right. But I hear it. And so now I'm wondering what's going on out there. When I'm supposed to be paying attention to this.
Yes, I get it, dude. And here, let me clarify this for everybody. Like, it's not that we have a lack of focus. It's that we just hyper focus sometimes on the wrong stuff.
And everything gets a say. That's, I think, the bigger difference is we don't miss a thing. If you really want like a good observer, get an ADHD person. Because nothing will happen without us noticing it. Nothing.
Yes, correct.
But here's what will happen and we won't notice it. Get a new piece of furniture and put it in my house while I'm away. When I come home, I ain't going to say nothing.
Nope.
Nothing. Like my wife will get her hair cut or whatever. And I'll do the same thing. I'll get my hair cut. And there's no compliments back and forth because neither one of us realize either the other person got a haircut. So it's a hard thing to understand until you're the one that's living with it. And you get it.
Let me ask you if you ever struggle with this. Is something that is if I'm having a conversation with my wife or and it's something that I'm going to have to ask her to do. And I feel like there could be the slightest bit of friction. I'm just going to do it my damn self. I'm just not going to ask, or I just won't do it, period.
We're both that way.
Yeah.
Missy and I are both that way. We're both very non-confrontational. And so if we think something that we might do might upset the other one, we just either take care of it ourselves or we just don't do it.
Yeah. You know, what's interesting, and there's a guy, and I can't remember, I think it's called Love and Relationships, I think is the name of the book.
Eggerichs?
And have you ever heard of it?
It's Love and Respect. It's Emerson Eggerichs.
That's absolutely it. And I'm like, I'm not sure how I got my hands on this thing, but I'm listening to it. I'm like, holy crap. Every dude that's married and every woman that's married needs to read this book, because it really does clarify the miscommunication in relationships.
So this is hilarious. Wow, I can't believe we got here from where we started. So I had planned for this fall to do a spousal business owner workshop. I was going to rent a VRBO in Lake Norman, which is just outside of Charlotte.
Yep.
And I was only inviting 10 couples, 10 business owner couples. And we were going to do a 1-week retreat, basically spousal business owner retreat. That retreat was built off of Love and Respect by Emerson Eggerichs, was built off the 5 Love Languages by Gary Chapman. It was built off of The Power of a Praying Husband, The Power of a Praying Wife. It was built off of the book by the owners of Radiant Plumbing and Heating, the K-Spears. And then there's also something called imago therapy, which is a type of counseling that you can go through as a married couple. Those 5 things were the resources that I dug into, along with my findings as a coach for spousal business owners of the things they struggle with, and put them together to create this week-long workshop so that they could leave with the ability to work better together and the ability to know when work started and personal stopped and vice versa. That was the whole premise of that workshop. We didn't hold it just because too many things were going on this year. And quite frankly, I did a really bad job marketing it. We will hold it in the spring. We will 1,000% hold it in the spring.
That's going to be killer. But of course, I understand the value of it because I've been through the books. I've been through all those, except the praying one. I haven't been through those 2, but the other ones I have been through those. And you're right. But you got to want to get better. You got to want to be able to communicate with your spouse better. You got to want a better relationship. You got to want to have better conversations. And unless you look into these things, if anybody, they're not just going to pop out of your head, right? You're not just going to all of a sudden wake up one day and everything's going to be great. If things are not great today, you got to make changes.
No, but our business should be something that increases our intimacy and increases our love for one another and increases our ability to dream together. It shouldn't be something that divides that. And if it is something that's dividing it, well, then something's not the way that it should be. And it doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. It probably means that there's something that you're not doing because you simply don't know to do it. Yeah. And that was the whole premise of this workshop, because I will tell you, when I work with spousal owners, it's the same, it's the same 7 to 10 challenges for all of them. Every single one of them. I could make out a list of 10 challenges, and I will guarantee you that the primary challenges in their businesses are on that list. 100% guaranteed.
Yeah, I'm sure you're right. And I think it's important, the spousal portion, like, I don't really care what people say. Like, at the end of the day, if it weren't for my wife, there's no way I could do the stuff that I do. Impossible. She's not even a part of my business, but guess what? She is a part of my business because she runs our house in addition to her business. She does all the crap I don't have time or want to do, for that matter. And she's really good like that. And it makes my life and my work life significantly better.
Yep. Amen. Amen. Yeah, I'm with you. Without Missy, Flywheel doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Period. It just, Flywheel never happened. Without her, honestly, man, without her, I'm probably still operating, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I'm probably still a miserable operator instead of chasing my passion, allowing the fear to get overcome and chasing my passion of growing other people for a living and being a coach. Like that, when I found coaching, I knew, damn, I found what I was put on earth to do. And it took me a long time to grow the courage to actually pursue it. And without her, probably never happens.
Because she's a cheerleader, right? She gave us that belief that we just couldn't muster at certain times, because I've been there.
Cheerleader is not even the word. There's just a lot of things. But yeah, cheerleader is a primary one. Supporter.
That belief. The belief is the biggest thing for me. She believed in me, and I believe in myself.
Accountability partner too, big time, right? I'll say something and she'll be like, "Oh my God, you're so humble." When I'm being an ass, when I'm saying something and she'll look at me and she'll be like, "Oh, you're so humble," and then roll her eyes at me.
But it works, right?
But it works beautifully.
Right.
It works beautifully.
Not offended, nothing, right? But
Nope.
that's the power of learning how to communicate, not only in your business, but with your spouse. It's the same difference. You need to communicate with your employees, your staff, the same way.
Yeah, but I can't wait. She joins me in July, baby. I can't wait. She'll complete a 23-year teaching career, and in June or sooner, we'll see. And in July, she'll join me on the team and be an integral part of. She already is an integral part, but she'll be a day-to-day integral part of what we do at Flywheels. People say, like, how can you teach a spousal business owner class? That's how. Because even though she's not involved in the day-to-day, I'm married and I own a business, and it's not the first time that I was married and owned a business. And the first go around I was married and owned a business, I wasn't very good at it. So I learned all the things that you're not supposed to do. And I learned all the ways to not handle that. Now I'm married and I own a business again. And I got to be honest with you, I don't know so much that I'm better as much as the spouse is. But the fact of the matter is, it still helped me uncover some of the things that have to happen for it to really be successful. And I just think when those types of things, you owe it to share them.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. I totally agree. 100%. Dude, this has been such a great conversation. I know we've been all over the place, but guess what? People that listen to this show, they're going to follow this conversation because they follow me. So that's great news. So whenever I have somebody on that's ADHD and it goes all over the place, I'm like, that's cool. People listen. They're totally fine. They've caught on by now. TJ, I think, dude, we've covered a lot of stuff today. This has been, again, it's been a fascinating conversation. And I think probably you and I are going to have a lot more conversations after this.
Yep.
And I'm looking forward to that. So if you could just tell everybody maybe where they can find you, how they can get a hold of you, tell them whatever you want to tell them.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll give you two different methods, and people think I'm crazy for giving the second one, but I'm going to give it anyway. The first way is you can go to www.flywheel, C is in coaching, G is in group, flywheelcg.com. You can learn about Flywheel. You can learn about what we do. We're still building out the site, so give me a little grace there because I am not the IT guy. And then the second way is I'm just going to give my direct cell phone, but I'm going to ask one thing. Use text as the primary means of communication, because I'm typically doing something like this, either Corey with someone like yourself or with a client or whatever, and I just can't answer it when people call. So I hate voicemail. Like, I hate listening to voicemails. I don't know about you, but it's one of my least favorite things.
I have to look at it.
Because then you're going to leave me a phone number that I can't write down. Like, it is what it is. Anyway, so direct cell line, 215-272-9036.
So pay attention, folks, because, and this is important. If you're a business owner and you obviously communicate with your employees, you communicate with your customers. TJ made a really good point, right? He explained really clearly how to contact him. He also explained really clearly how not to contact him. So my point in bringing that up is, if you give clear, concise directions in your business, like he just did with that phone number, you're going to have a way more successful time.
Yep. If you call me and you leave a voicemail, you've given up the right to get mad at me when I don't return your call.
That's simple. That's
Because I
simple.
just told you not to do that.
Exactly. For people like you and me, like we got to keep messages and stuff in one area too, probably. It's a lot. So go ahead.
Corey, you can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Instagram as well. I don't have any like handles or anything. It's literally TJ Hartnett, no matter where you look for me. So
I'll put it all in the show notes. I appreciate you, my man.
Back at you, brother. I appreciate you having me on, and I look forward to staying connected and just growing this relationship, buddy.
I think so. It's gonna be great, dude. We're more alike than I thought. I appreciate you, my man.
Back at you, bud.